Sister took my room and parents laughed. It's hers now, Dad said. I packed my bags and left, but when my lawyer called a week later they were begging me. I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked through the front door. The air in the house felt different. Not just the usual. You've been away for months. Kind of different, but something deeper, like I was walking into someone else's home. The couch was new. The old family photos on the wall were gone, replaced with framed prints of landscapes that looked like they belonged in a hotel lobby. I could hear music blasting from upstairs, my old room. My stomach twisted as I took the stairs 2 at a time. I already had a bad feeling, but I still wasn't ready for what I saw when I pushed the door open. My room, the one I had grown up in, the only place in this house that had ever felt like mine, was unrecognizable. Gone were my posters, my bookshelves, the little desk where I used to cram for exams. In their place was a plush pink vanity, a towering wardrobe, and a mountain of clothes that definitely weren't mine. And there, sitting cross-legged on a bed that used to be mine, was my younger sister, Katie, casually painting her nails like she'd owned the place forever. She barely even looked up. "Oh, you're back," she said, as if I were the intruder. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. I stood frozen in the doorway, gripping my duffel bag so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Katie," I said slowly, my voice dangerously calm. "What are you doing in my room?" She glanced up, blowing on her freshly painted nails. "Oh, yeah? Mom and Dad said I could have it. Cool, right?" Cool? Was she serious? I turned on my heel and stormed downstairs, my pulse pounding in my ears. My parents were in the kitchen, laughing over something on my dad's phone, completely at ease. They didn't even look up when I walked in. "Hey," I said, barely keeping my voice steady. "Why is Katie in my room?" My dad finally glanced at me, setting his phone down. "Oh, that," he said with an infuriating chuckle. "Yeah, we gave it to her." I blinked. "You what?" Mom sighed, acting like I was making a fuss over nothing. "Sweetheart, you don't live here anymore." Katie needed more space. It just made sense. "Made sense?" I echoed, my voice rising. "You didn't even ask me." My dad smirked, like I was being ridiculous. "It's hers now," he said, and that was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I had always been the afterthought, the one expected to deal with whatever scraps of attention were left after Katie got everything she wanted. But this was the final insult. Without another word, I turned around and walked straight back upstairs. If they thought they could erase me from this house like I was nothing, they had another thing coming. I was done. I stormed into what was now apparently Katie's room, ignoring her irritated sigh as I threw open the closet. A few of my old things were still there, shoved into the corner like an afterthought. I grabbed my suitcase from under the bed, her bed now, I reminded myself bitterly, and started throwing my clothes inside. What are you doing?" Katie asked, her tone dripping with annoyance. I didn't answer. I was too busy yanking my belongings from drawers, the ones she had already started stuffing with her own things. "You don't have to be so dramatic," she huffed, crossing her arms. "It's not like you even live here anymore." I turned to face her, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "Yeah, because I was at college. Not gone forever. You think I was just never going to come back?" She shrugged, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. "I mean, kinda?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Wow. You know what? Fine. You can have the damn room. Keep it. I don't care anymore." I zipped up my suitcase and slung my duffel bag over my shoulder, brushing past her as I walked out. When I reached the stairs, I saw my parents standing at the bottom, looking at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "Where do you think you're going?" my mom asked, her voice suddenly laced with concern. I stared at them, my chest heaving. "I'm done," I said. "I'm done with this family, done being treated like I don't matter. You made it clear where I stand." "Oh, come on," my dad scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. Where are you even going to go?" I gave him a cold smile. "Anywhere but here." And with that I walked out the door, leaving them standing in stunned silence. They thought they could just take from me without consequences. They had no idea what was coming next. I didn't look back as I walked down the driveway. I could still hear my mom calling my name, my dad muttering something under his breath, but I kept going. I wasn't bluffing. I was done. I drove straight to my best friend, Mark's, apartment. He took one look at my face and stepped aside without a word. "You good?" he asked once I dropped my bags on his couch. "Not even close," I muttered, running a hand through my hair. "But I will be." It was later that night, lying awake in the dark, when I remembered something very important. My grandfather's will. He had left the house to me. Not to my parents. Not to Katie. Me. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked over the glass of water on the nightstand. My grandfather had always known how my parents treated me. He never called them out directly, but he saw it. And when he passed away a few years back, he left the house, his house, to me. At the time, I hadn't really processed what that meant. I was in college, living in a dorm, with no reason to claim the place. My parents had kept living there like nothing had changed, and I had let them. But now they were acting like I never even existed. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my emails, searching for the scanned copy of my grandfather's will that the lawyer had sent me after the funeral. My heart pounded as I opened the document. There it was, in black and white. The house belonged to me. Not them. Not Katie. Me. A slow grin spread across my face as I scrolled to the lawyer's contact information. It was late, but I didn't care. I drafted a quick email and hit send. By the time my parents realized what was happening, it would already be too late. The next morning, I woke up to an email from my lawyer. It was short and to the point. "Give me a call when you're free. We need to talk." I called him immediately. "You're up early," he said. "I assume you saw my email." "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "So, what happens now?" There was a brief pause before he spoke again, his tone calm but firm. "Well, your parents have been living in your house under the assumption that they own it. Legally, they don't. You have every right to reclaim it." I let that sink in for a second. "So, what does that mean exactly?" "It means," he said, "we're going to send them a formal notice of eviction. They'll have 30 days to vacate unless you choose to give them more time. Given how they treated you, I assume you won't." I smirked. "You assume correctly." "Good," he said. "I'll handle the paperwork. They should be getting a call from my office by the end of the day." I thanked him and hung up, feeling something I hadn't in a long time: power. My whole life, I had been pushed aside, treated like an afterthought while Katie got whatever she wanted. But now I was the one calling the shots. And they had no idea what was about to hit them. I didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a call from my mom. I let it ring. Then another from my dad. Then Katie. I ignored all of them. Finally, a text popped up from my dad. "What the hell is this? A lawyer? You think you can just kick us out of our own house?" I chuckled. They still didn't get it. I typed back. "Not your house. Mine." Less than a minute later, my phone rang again. This time I answered. "What do you think you're doing?" My dad snapped the second I picked up. "I'm reclaiming what's mine," I said coolly. "You know, the house Grandpa left me? The one you conveniently pretended didn't belong to me?" "Oh, come on." My mom cut in, her voice sugar-coated with fake patience. "Sweetheart, this is ridiculous. This is our home." I laughed. "No, it's my home. And if you read the legal notice, you know you have 30 days to leave. We raised you here," she cried. "How can you do this to us?" I felt a pang of something, not guilt, but the remnants of a past where I still cared what they thought. But that past was dead. They had made sure of that. I leaned back against the couch at Mark's apartment, keeping my tone casual. "That's funny," I said. "Because when I came home from college, you had no problem telling me my room wasn't mine anymore. So now, I'm just returning the favor." Silence. Then my dad spoke again, his voice lower now. "You think you're punishing us?" he said. "You'll regret this. Families don't do this to each other." I gritted my teeth. Families don't do this to each other? After everything they'd done? "No," I said, voice steady. Real families don't. That's why I don't consider you mine anymore. I hung up. And for the first time in my life, I truly felt free. For the rest of the day, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts. I ignored all of them. Mark sat across from me on the couch, scrolling through his phone, glancing up every now and then. So, you think they're freaking out yet? I smirked. Oh, definitely. Just as I said that, my phone buzzed again, this time with a text from my mom. Mom, we need to talk. Please come over. Let's be reasonable about this. I stared at the message. Reasonable? Where was that reasonableness? When they gave away my room like I was a stranger in my own home? When they laughed in my face? Then another text, this time from Katie. Katie, are you seriously doing this? I needed that room. You don't even live here. Just let Mom and Dad keep the house. You don't even want it. I laughed out loud, shaking my head. Mark raised an eyebrow. What? I turned my phone to show him the message. He let out a low whistle. Wow. She needed the room? Like the rest of the house wasn't already hers? Exactly. I muttered. I typed a quick response. I needed my family to treat me like I mattered. Didn't get that either. So sucks, huh? I hit send. A minute later, my phone rang again, my dad. I sighed. All right, let's see what excuse he has this time. I answered, putting him on speaker. Son, he started, his voice smoother now, like he was trying to play nice. We don't have to do this. This is your family. You don't really want us out on the street, do you? I glanced at Mark, who was mouthing wow dramatically. I bit back a smile. Out on the street? I repeated. Did you even read the notice? You have 30 days to move. Plenty of time to find a new place. But this is our home, my dad argued. We built a life here. I scoffed. Oh, now it's your home? Because when I came back from college, suddenly it wasn't mine anymore. Silence. Then my mom's voice broke in. Honey, you're just upset. You don't mean this. Please, just come talk to us. We can work something out. I leaned back. You mean like how you worked something out when you decided Katie could just take my room? She sighed. That was different. I gritted my teeth. You're right. It was. Because I actually have a legal claim to the house, and you don't. My dad's patience snapped. You're being a selfish brat. You didn't even want the house until now. You've barely lived here the last few years. I laughed. Neither have you. Grandpa owned it before me, and you had no problem pretending that little detail didn't exist when it suited you. More silence. I could practically hear the gears turning in their heads as they realized I wasn't backing down. Then my mom spoke again, her voice shaking slightly. Please, don't do this. Something about the way she said it told me she wasn't just worried about moving. She was scared. I narrowed my eyes. Why do you care so much about staying there? More silence. Then my dad muttered. It's complicated. Mark and I exchanged a look. Now that was interesting. I pushed. Complicated how? My mom exhaled sharply, like she was trying to hold back frustration. Just come over, please. We need to talk in person. I thought about it. A part of me wanted to leave them to sweat it out. But another part? The part that had known something was off about this from the start? That part wanted answers. I took a breath. Fine, I said. I'll be there in an hour. Mark sat up. Dude, you sure? I nodded. Yeah. But I'm not going alone. Mark grinned. Oh, I wouldn't miss this for the world. I had a feeling my parents weren't telling me the whole story. And I was going to find out exactly what they were hiding. An hour later, I pulled into the driveway of my house, Mark in the passenger seat. It looked the same as always, but something about it felt different. Maybe it was the knowledge that this place legally belonged to me now, or maybe it was the sight of my parents standing in the doorway, waiting. My mom looked nervous, wringing her hands together. My dad had his arms crossed, trying to look confident, but I could see the tightness in his jaw. Katie was there too, sitting on the porch steps, scowling at me like a kid whose favorite toy had just been taken away. I stepped out of the car, not bothering to greet them. All right, I said, walking up to the porch. I'm here. So start talking. My dad scoffed. Is that any way to speak to your... Cut the crap, I interrupted. You said we needed to talk. So talk. Mom glanced at my dad, who clenched his jaw but said nothing. She exhaled and stepped forward. We can't move, she admitted, her voice quiet. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, you can't? She hesitated, then looked at my dad again, as if hoping he'd step in. But when he didn't, she sighed and finally said it. We don't have anywhere else to go. I blinked. Excuse me? Dad clenched his fists. Money's tight, he muttered, like the words physically hurt to say. For a second, I just stood there, processing. They had nowhere to go. These were the same parents who always acted like they had everything figured out. The same ones who treated me like I was the inconvenience. And now, suddenly, they were out of options. You're broke, I said flatly, just to hear them admit it. My mom winced but nodded. I let out a sharp laugh. Wow. So let me get this straight. You gave away my room, laughed in my face when I got upset about it, and now you're begging me because you can't afford to move? Katie groaned, throwing her head back. Oh my God, why are you making this a big deal? We'll figure it out. We just need time. I turned to her, crossing my arms. Oh, now you need time? Because when I needed my space, all I got was, it's hers now, and a laugh. She rolled her eyes. I didn't think you'd be this petty about it. Mark, who had been silent until now, let out a low whistle. Wow. She's really committed to playing the victim here. Katie shot him a glare, but he just grinned at her. I looked back at my parents. You're really trying to guilt me into letting you stay? My mom sighed. We're not trying to guilt you. Yes, you are, I cut in. If you were actually sorry, you wouldn't have waited until a lawyer got involved. You would have called me the second you realized this house wasn't yours. My dad scoffed. You think this is funny? You're enjoying this, aren't you? I tilted my head. You mean, am I enjoying watching the people who treated me like I was disposable finally face the consequences of their actions? A little bit, yeah? Katie groaned again. So what? You're just gonna kick us out? Seriously? I stared at her. That's exactly what's happening. Mom put a hand to her chest, looking genuinely panicked now. But we don't have the money for a new place. If we move now, we'll be... I held up a hand, cutting her off. That's not my problem. She looked at me like I just slapped her. You can't do this, Dad snapped. I met his glare head on. I can't, I said, voice steady. And I am. For years I had let them walk all over me. I had swallowed every insult, let them push me aside, accepted that I was always going to be second to Katie. Not anymore. You have 30 days, I said. Better start packing. And with that I turned and walked away, leaving them standing in stunned silence. Mark let out a low chuckle as we got back in the car. Dude, he said, shaking his head. That was brutal. I smirked, gripping the steering wheel. Yeah, I said, pulling out of the driveway. And it's only just beginning. For the next few days, my phone was a battlefield of desperate calls and guilt-tripping texts. Mom tried the gentle approach first. Mom, sweetheart, we can work this out. Families shouldn't fight over a house. Let's talk. Then came the guilt trip. Mom, do you really want to see your parents homeless? After everything we've done for you? Dad, of course, took a different angle. Dad, you ungrateful brat. You think you're better than us now? You wouldn't even have this house if it weren't for us keeping it up. That one made me laugh. Keeping it up? The house was my grandfather's. They had lived there rent-free for years. Then came Katie. Katie, this is insane. What am I supposed to do? I need my room. That one made me laugh even harder. Mark leaned over my shoulder, reading the messages as I scrolled. Wow. They really don't get it, huh? Not even a little, I said, shaking my head. I ignored every message. Every call. Every pathetic attempt to manipulate me. Then, a few days later, they tried something new. I got home from work and found my mom sitting on the steps outside Mark's apartment. Waiting. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Here we go. I stood there for a moment, staring at my mom as she sat on the steps outside Mark's apartment, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. She looked up when she saw me, her face instantly twisting into an expression of motherly concern. "Sweetheart, can we talk?" I sighed, walking past her to unlock the door. "There's nothing to talk about." She stood quickly, reaching out to grab my arm. "Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I turned to face her, arms crossed. 5 minutes, then you leave." She nodded eagerly. "Thank you." I stepped aside, letting her in. Mark was in the kitchen, watching with raised eyebrows but wisely saying nothing. I sat down on the couch, and she perched on the edge of the chair across from me, hands clasped together like she was about to deliver a heartfelt speech. "Honey," she started, her voice soft. "I know you're angry, and I understand why." I leaned back. "Do you?" She flinched but continued. "We made a mistake. We should have talked to you before giving Katie the room. We assumed you wouldn't mind since you were away at college." I scoffed. "Away at college, not gone forever." She exhaled, nodding. "I get that now. But this eviction thing, it's too much. We don't have the money to move right now. If you just give us some time." I cut her off. "You had years to get your finances together. That's not my fault." Her eyes welled up with tears. "We're your family." I clenched my jaw. "Were you thinking about family when you laughed in my face? When Dad said it's hers now, like I didn't even matter? Because I remember that moment very clearly." She sniffled, shaking her head. We didn't know you'd react like this." I let out a short laugh. "Oh, so if I had just accepted it, everything would have been fine? You wouldn't even feel bad, would you?" Silence. She wiped at her eyes, trying a different tactic. "Please don't do this. We don't have anywhere else to go." I exhaled, looking at her for a long moment. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice calm. "You have 25 days left. Use them wisely." Her face crumpled. "We raised you, I stood, cutting her off. "You raised me to be independent. Congratulations. Now leave." She looked at me, waiting for me to cave. I didn't. Finally, she let out a shaky breath and stood up. She walked to the door slowly, pausing before opening it. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I didn't respond. I just watched as she stepped outside and disappeared down the street. Mark let out a low whistle from the kitchen. "Dude! That was brutal." I sat back down, rubbing my temples. "Yeah. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. And I knew, without a doubt, I'd never regret standing up for myself.